As Emma and Daniel spent more time together, their bond grew stronger but heavier, filled with emotions neither could ignore anymore. And what once felt easy now carried quiet weight. They shared long walks and late conversations, learning each other's habits, values, and fears, and with every shared truth, the stakes rose. Emma felt herself growing attached in a way that felt deep and real, not rushed, but certain, and she knew she wanted something steady, something that moved forward, with intention. Daniel felt the same pull, yet alongside it came memories he had tried to bury, moments from his past where commitment had led to loss, pressure, and regret. He enjoyed Emma's presence, admired her honesty, and felt calmer around her than he had in years, but fear followed close behind, whispering warnings he struggled to silence. One evening, after dinner at Emma's apartment, the air between them felt different. Not tense, but serious, as if something important had reached the surface. Emma noticed it first and decided not to avoid it anymore, knowing that silence could slowly damage what honesty might save. She asked Daniel where he saw things going, her voice calm but firm, not demanding answers, only truth. Daniel felt the weight of the question settle in his chest, and for a moment he wished time would slow so he could choose the right words. He cared deeply, but certainty felt like a promise he wasn't sure he could keep. He spoke carefully, admitting that he valued what they shared but needed time, unsure of how ready he was for something defined. His words were honest, yet they landed heavily, creating a quiet distance between them. Emma listened without interrupting, her expression composed, though disappointment settled quietly inside her. She had hoped for reassurance, not perfection. And while she respected his truth, it confirmed a fear she had tried to ignore. The rest of the evening passed gently but differently, with fewer smiles and longer pauses. And when Daniel left, the goodbye felt unfinished. Over the next days, communication slowed, messages becoming shorter and less frequent. Not from lack of care, but from uncertainty on both sides. Emma focused on work and friends, trying to convince herself she could step back without pain. Yet the absence felt sharper than she expected. Daniel noticed the change too, realizing that the space growing between them felt worse than the fear he had been protecting himself from. He replayed their conversations, questioning whether caution had cost him something meaningful. Both carried unanswered thoughts, wondering if timing had once again interfered with something genuine. As days turned into a week, the connection that once felt warm now felt fragile, suspended between what was said and what remained unspoken. Emma wrestled with whether waiting was strength or self-betrayal, while Daniel struggled with the realization that avoiding risk did not protect him from loss. Part 3 unfolded in quiet moments of reflection, where both stood at emotional crossroads. Knowing that love left unchosen does not fade easily, and that soon. One of them would have to decide whether fear or hope would shape what came next. The silence between Emma and Daniel did not last because neither of them could truly accept a future shaped by regret. And the distance only made their feelings clearer rather than weaker. Emma tried to move forward, filling her days with work, social plans, and routines that once felt comforting, yet every quiet moment reminded her of what she had almost built. She realized she did not want perfection or guarantees, only effort and honesty, and that walking away without closure felt heavier than taking a risk. Daniel, meanwhile, found that the space he thought he needed brought no peace, only a sharp awareness of what he had pushed aside. He missed the ease of being himself around Emma, the way her presence softened his thoughts, and he understood that fear had been guiding him more than reason. After days of reflection, he accepted that avoiding commitment did not spare him from pain, it only delayed it. One calm Sunday afternoon, Daniel stood outside Emma's apartment, unsure of the outcome but certain that silence was no longer an option. When Emma opened the door, surprise crossed her face, followed by guarded curiosity, and they stood facing each other in a moment that felt both fragile and important. Daniel spoke without rehearsing, admitting his hesitation, his fear of failing, and his mistake in letting uncertainty create distance. He told her he could not promise a perfect future, but he could promise honesty, effort, and presence, and that he wanted to move forward rather than remain stuck in doubt. Emma listened closely, weighing his words not against her hopes, but against the sincerity she saw in him. She shared her own truth, explaining that she needed clarity, not control, and that choosing each other daily mattered more than long-term guarantees. The conversation was calm but emotional, filled with pauses that carried meaning rather than tension. When Emma finally spoke again, she acknowledged the risk, but also the possibility. And she chose not to let fear decide for her either. They agreed to move forward with intention, understanding that trust would grow through actions, not promises. As Daniel stepped inside, the space between them felt lighter, no longer defined by uncertainty, but by shared willingness. Over the following weeks, their connection rebuilt itself, stronger and more grounded, shaped by open communication and mutual respect. They faced challenges with patience, choosing conversation over avoidance, and learned that growth often comes from discomfort faced together. The relationship did not become perfect, but it became real, filled with moments of laughter, reflection, and steady companionship. Part 4 closed not with dramatic declarations, but with quiet confidence, as Emma and Daniel walked forward side by side. Aware that love is not about certainty alone, but about choosing to stay present even when the future remains unwritten. Emma Carter did not believe that ordinary days could change a life. Yet that evening proved her wrong as she stood near the window of her Portland apartment. Watching rain slide down the glass like quiet thoughts she never finished. The city moved below her, calm and distant, while inside her chest lived a feeling she could not name, something like waiting without knowing for what. Her life looked complete from the outside: a steady job at a design firm, friendly coworkers, weekend routines, and phone calls to her sister in Seattle. Still, when night arrived, silence followed her like a shadow, reminding her that something important was missing. That night, instead of cooking dinner, Emma pulled on a jacket and stepped into the rain. Driven by a sudden need to be somewhere that felt less empty, a small independent bookstore a few blocks away became her destination. A place she loved because it asked nothing from her except time. Inside, the smell of paper and old wood wrapped around her, slowing her thoughts as she wandered between shelves without direction. At the same moment, Daniel Wright pushed open the same door, shaking rain from his coat after another long workday that left him tired but restless. He had moved to Portland from Chicago, chasing opportunity, yet months later, success felt quiet and lonely. His days were full of meetings and decisions, but his evenings were empty, filled with thoughts he avoided by staying busy. The bookstore felt like a pause button, a place where he could breathe without expectations. As he walked deeper inside, scanning titles he did not plan to buy, his attention shifted when he noticed Emma standing near the poetry section. Her expression thoughtful, her posture relaxed yet distant. Their eyes met briefly, not with surprise but with recognition, as if they had both stepped into the same quiet moment by accident. No smiles were exchanged, no words spoken, yet something passed between them, subtle and strong, like a question left unanswered. Emma felt it first, a soft pull that made her pause before turning back to the shelf, suddenly aware of her own heartbeat. Daniel felt it too, an unexpected warmth that settled in his chest before he could explain it away. They stood only a few feet apart, sharing the same silence, each pretending to read while quietly aware of the other's presence. Emma chose a book at random and moved toward the counter, her mind distracted, her steps slower than usual. Daniel watched her go, unsure why the moment mattered, yet unable to forget it even as she disappeared through the door. Outside, the rain had eased, and Emma walked home with this strange feeling that she had left something behind, though she carried the book tightly against her chest. That night, sleep came slowly as her thoughts returned again and again to the bookstore, to the quiet stranger whose presence felt familiar without reason. Across the city, Daniel sat on his couch staring at nothing, replaying the moment with more attention than it deserved, or so he told himself. He wondered why such a small encounter felt heavy, why it stirred emotions he believed he had already settled. Neither of them knew each other's names, histories, or fears, yet something had shifted, small but real, as if their lives had tilted slightly toward a new direction. In the days that followed, Emma noticed how the memory stayed with her. Not distracting, but steady, like a background thought she couldn't turn off. Daniel noticed the same, finding himself returning to that bookstore without admitting why, hoping for something he didn't know how to ask for. Part one of their story ended without answers, without promises, and without certainty. But it left behind a quiet truth neither could deny. Something had begun the moment their eyes met. And it would not be easy to ignore. The days after the bookstore meeting passed quickly, yet the memory of it stayed alive in both Emma and Daniel, shaping their thoughts in ways they did not expect or plan. Emma tried to focus on work, on deadlines and meetings, but her mind often drifted, wondering why a stranger's presence had settled so deeply inside her. She told herself it was only curiosity, yet when she returned to the same bookstore a week later, she knew it was not an accident. Daniel had arrived earlier that afternoon, drawn there by the same quiet pull, convincing himself he simply liked the calm of the place. When Emma walked in, he noticed her instantly, a familiar calm, spreading through him before she even saw him. This time, their eyes met again, and neither looked away. Daniel spoke first, his voice steady but careful, asking if she liked the author she was holding. Emma answered honestly, surprised by how easy the words came. Their conversation moved quickly, skipping the usual small talk and settling into something warmer and more open. They spoke about books that had changed them, cities they had lived in, and how moving somewhere new could feel like starting over without a map. Emma felt comfortable in a way she rarely did, as if she didn't need to perform or impress. Daniel felt the same, sensing no pressure to be anything other than himself. When the bookstore closed, they walked outside together. The evening air cool and gentle, and without planning it, they stopped at a nearby cafe. Over simple drinks, they shared more pieces of their lives, laughing easily, listening carefully, and allowing small silences to exist without fear. Emma noticed how Daniel listened, not waiting to speak, but truly hearing her. Daniel noticed how Emma spoke with honesty, not hiding her emotions behind jokes or distance. Time passed unnoticed until the cafe lights dimmed, signaling closing time. Standing outside, neither wanted the night to end, yet neither rushed it forward. Daniel asked if they could meet again, his question simple but sincere. Emma said yes without hesitation, feeling both excited and cautious, aware that hope could be dangerous if held too tightly. They exchanged numbers, hands brushing briefly, sending a quiet spark through them both. That night, Emma stared at her phone, smiling at a message that simply said he had enjoyed the evening. Daniel reread her reply more times than he would admit, feeling lighter than he had in months. Over the following weeks, they met often, sometimes planned, sometimes spontaneous, walking through parks, sharing meals, and learning each other's rhythms. Their connection deepened quickly, not through grand gestures, but through shared moments and honest conversation. Emma began to imagine what it might mean to build something real, while Daniel felt both drawn forward and held back by thoughts of past mistakes. Still, neither spoke of doubts, choosing instead to stay in the warmth of what was growing between them. Part 2 closed with both feeling closer than before, yet standing on the edge of something undefined, knowing that comfort can be beautiful, but clarity would soon be needed.